So this is part 2 of the Harbour and Wintershall megamerge video. Now if you haven't seen part 1, recommend you go and see it now, because this is filling in all the gaps and adding a lot more information beside. So in yesterday's video we looked at the merger between Harbour Energy and Wintershall Dea. Now here is the video. It's just 9.5 minutes long. As we recorded this, actually it was over 550 views, and that's in less than 24 hours. What's significant about that is we're expecting many more than 1,000 views of these videos, and they're primarily subsurface people and investors who are looking at this. So it's exactly the ones that your company wants to reach. Think about it. So today we're going to start by looking at Harbour Energy's UK operations. Now, the UK accounts for 90% of Harbour's production, 93% of the reserves, and on about a 50-50 split between oil and gas. We could have chosen any of the assets listed there in yellow down the left-hand side, and in fact some of those we've actually been quite involved on a consultancy role, actually doing some hub analysis on parts of the portfolio. But today we're going to concentrate, just have a quick look at the Greater Britannia area and the Catcher area. Why not? So if we have a look at Britannia, here's the subsea layout, called a field schematic here, and you can see the Britannia platform is located here. It's basically a main jacket, and then we have a jacket off to the side here, the BLP. Now you can see the subsea pipeline network, various flow lines, umbilicals, control lines, basically going out to all these various manifolds here, to some of these remote fields. Here's Alder, here's some of the subsea wells on Britannia being tied back to the platform. Here's Inokdu, Callanish, here's Brodgar, here's Finlagan coming back across the facility. Now this is third-party business. Now a couple of shots there of the platform from the Harbour Energy website. Pause the video if you want to have a look at the information. Again, you can get this from the Harbour's website. You can see this material comes out of TROVE. You can see how over the years the surrounding area, the acreage position has changed. This is what it looks like today. This is the December 2023 view, and you can see there's lots of open acreage in and around the Britannia field. So this is what we have as an entry for Britannia in TROVE. And then if we go on, this is Brodgar. You can see we've got lots and lots of seismic lines, maps, cross sections, interpreted seismic. We've got well logs. We've got a whole bunch of information. That's for Brodgar. This is for Callanish. Here's Inokdu. And finally, here's Alder. Huge amounts of information at the click of a button. That's what you find in our TROVE database. If we move on to the Catcher area, again, this is the write-up you'll find in Harbour website. Here's a picture again from the website, and basically the subsea layout here, in this case, it's just for the Lavada development, and there's Lavada up to the north of Catcher. Now you can see that Catcher sits in what is currently an area of open acreage, very much alone. You know, there are a couple of FPSOs over here. Basically there's nothing around in this area, but potential, well, you can see there haven't been that many wells drilled when you think about the fact that this is actually quite a recent discovery at Catcher. So if we look here, there's Lavada. That's the information that we have in the TROVE database. This is the information we have for all the others, including here a CPR that's done some time ago, but lots of information, and we keep it updated and keep it evergreen. Now if we move on to the UAE, and you can see here, we've got actually this slide here on the top left, very interesting. So if we look, a very complicated story in just a very simple diagram. And this comes from Taha 1996, courtesy of Eddie Ong in this instance. So you can see that we have here a series of oil fields in the upper Jurassic and a series of gas fields in the middle Jurassic. This is Ghasha here, and you can see that the oil is basically trapped underneath the Hith anhydrite until the Hith anhydrite actually ends up basically pinching out at this location here, and at that point then the oil that's charged actually goes up into the overlying lower Cretaceous, the Marmar group, and that's Zakum and upper and lower Zakum. and we'll have a look at those in a second. But you can see here also you've got a source that's gas, and that's being trapped here down in the middle Jurassic reservoirs, and then you've got the oil, which must be sourced either sort of out of the plain or from this intervening interval, and actually being charged up from underneath, and as I say, leaking then up into Zakum. Lots of information on a very simple diagram. Great way to actually understand why the field is there and what's going on. One of the items that's in the news at the minute is the Ghasha ultra sour gas project in Abu Dhabi. This is a project that is currently underway and expecting first production in 2025. Now, anticipating that annual production might be in the order of 120,000 barrels of oil, I guess equivalent that would be. Now, that's ADNOC, ENI, Wintershall 10%, and OMV. It's an offshore gas field. We'll have a look. That's the TROVE entry just for Ghasha alone. So, but what that drew our attention to was Zakum nearby, and Zakum's really interesting. There's our database entry for Zakum, and just having a quick look around here, it's got nothing to do with the merger, but just is a kind of an interesting one. So it's an asymmetric anticline, and you can see that it's actually in the lower Cretaceous or early Cretaceous Thamama group. It's in the Shuaibah and the underlying units, all carbonates, mainly limestones. And then what we can see is that they're all drilled from this artificial island. You can see there's a derrick in the front of that. Now, Upper Zakum expected to increase the capacity of this field to 1 million barrels a day, and that's by 2024. Now, discovered in 1967, it's a huge area, and we've talked about the age of the reservoir. It's probably the structure formed by a basement-triggered salt diaprism event, or a series of events. Now, what's quite interesting and unique about this field is that when you look for faults across it, hardly any can be found. There are some 10-foot throw faults over in the east of the field. And bear in mind that we've actually got the lower Zakum to actually add to this story. Been in the news recently, back in October 2022, the Upper Zakum field drilled a well down to a TD of 15,240 meters. That's 50,000 feet. That's the world's longest oil well, unless it's been beaten since, and I'm sure somebody will put in the comment below if it has. What do we know about the reserves? Well, in our TROVE database, we capture reserves from a variety of sources, and you can see that for oil, we've got anywhere between 17 and 21.7 billion barrels of oil. And that's the ultimate recoverable reserves, so over the entire lifetime of the field. As well as that, gas reserves anywhere between 12 and 13 TCF of gas. This is an enormous field and is going to be significant for the future. Now, it's got nothing to do, as I say, with the Harbour-Wintershall merge deal, but it's kind of an example of you have to look around and see what's happening in the fields all around. Now, not the sort of information you find in data rooms. You do find it all in our TROVE databases. So going on and looking at Ghasha, you can see that here's Zakum, and there's a bunch of opportunities around here. Now, Hale and Ghasha are often put together in the same, the FID back in 2020, and if you follow this through, you can see there's lots of developments going on in this area. Abu Dhabi is very, very, very busy, and you can see here's all the fields. This is the TROVE entry. Ghasha concession. It's the concession or the license is valid for 40 years. There are 3 gas and condensate fields: Hale, Ghasha, and Dalma. There are also other fields in the area. Now, ADNOC has a 60% stake in the license. ENI 25, Wintershall 10. and OMV 5. I think we've said that before. Moving on swiftly and having a look at Vietnam. So we've talked in yesterday's video about the Andaman Sea area and some of the exciting developments that have been going on in here, really for Harbour Energy, and Timpan being the first discovery in the region for the company. But now if we move across and we look into Vietnam, we're looking at Block 12W, which is a Harbour 53% equity, and they are the operator. Now water depth around about 95 meters, and you have the Chim Sao oil field, discovered in 2006, on stream 2011, and it's a dual subsea tieback. In 2022, well, it was only doing 4,000 barrels of oil equivalent, but it's being produced back into this Leukemus FPSO. All the data, as we say, it's all in TROVE and a lot more beside. Now, Wintershall in the Netherlands, well, operates 12 actively producing fields. Here's one example. Here is the L6B. It's a tiny platform here, serviced here by this vessel. In 1,200 kilometers of Dutch offshore gas pipelines are operated by Wintershall North Sea. 1.2 million cubic feet of gas per day can be processed at the Umeiden Q8 terminal. And I'll leave you to read these other headlines here. Here's the operations that we have. You can see here's the office here in Den Helder and Rijswijk. And offshore, these are some of the operations: Suleimanite, Vermeer, and Rembrandt. There's a couple of TROVE entries just to show you. We've got lots on these as well. Now, over in Egypt, well, we're looking at the West Nile Delta and the district concessions. They include the Raven Field. It's the West Nile Delta Miocene reservoir with stacked channels draping over a three-way dip structural closure. A Oligocene source rock with terrestrial kerogen, so very gassy. Discovered in 2004. Production startup was 2021, and it's multi-TCF reserves quoted here. BP operate this, but Wintershall there, I've got a 17% interest. Some more statistics, and again, this from the website, showing the headquarters for the Wintershall operation in Cairo, and here's the two offshore fields that we've been talking about here. Now, moving on to Argentina, and somebody asked, what about Argentina in the questions, and hopefully this will suffice and help. So this is what you can find on the Wintershall website, the office here in Buenos Aires, and we're looking at the San Roque and the Quadra Pichana Este areas, which is kind of, unconventional. These are sort of shale. Also, we've got the CMA1 down here in Tierra del Fuego. Here listed, these are just some, the sort of the A to L of just some of the assets. We've got 966 assets in the Argentina database. Just to set the scene, it's the Neuquén Vaca Muerta, the dead cow play. It's Upper Jurassic in age. This is again from Eddie Young a few years ago. And you can see, here's the ultimate recoverable in oil. You can see the wells or the fields that have been developed and produced to date. And likewise for gas, it's a very, very significant area, possibly outside of the Permian Basin and some of the other US unconventional plays. This is one that's getting a great deal of attention and a great deal of activity, and it's really improved the economy of Argentina. In TROVE, this is the entry we have for San Roque and for Quadra Pichana Este. Lots of information coming from that. For the Tierra del Fuego, yes, that's information that you might be able to find from the Wintershall website, but let me tell you, it's going to take you months or years to find all the data we have, and it's just a click of a button away. That's what we have for the Vega Plejada, the Carina, and the Aries field, which are collectively the three fields shown on here, which make up the CMA area. Why are we kind of spending our time here? Well, you can see we look within the Wintershall portfolio. We looked yesterday briefly at a couple of examples from Norway. By far and away the major contributor to production in the Wintershall Dea portfolio. You can see Argentina, which we've just covered here, Germany, the domestic onshore, Mittelplatte, and many onshore oil and gas fields, Egypt, Libya. But we note, this is from Welligence, saying that part of the business in Libya is going to be held by Wintershall, and it's excluded from the deal. So we don't have the details of that just now, but I'm sure we'll learn that in due course. Mexico we touched on yesterday, Algeria we touched on, and Denmark too. So I think we've kind of covered most of the portfolio. New ventures departments, take heed. We understand that a number of companies actually looked at this Wintershall Dea package. Now, ADNOC, Total Energies, Equinor, they were quoted, and that's again from this article here from Welligence. Troll has compiled, recorded, edited and released 2 videos within 28 hours of the deal announcement. You're watching the second of them. Are you impressed by the amount of material we're able to show and put together in such a short period of time? Could your new ventures department do the same? 3 questions to mull over during the festive break. How much time would your new ventures team save if you started with TROVE? Data rooms are absolutely great, fantastic, full of information, but they're very asset specific. Where do you get the regional context, the offset discoveries? What's happening in the field next door? We saw in the case of Zachem. Now, how much time did your Subsurface and other teams, your commercial guys, how much time did they waste searching Google? This is a number that is underestimated in every company. The world is ready to access when you have TROVE databases, and it's a fraction of the cost that you pay your current data suppliers, and it's full of predominantly subsurface information. We'd like to demonstrate how, and we would like to do so by you just taking the Ghasha UAE information we pulled together as an example of just how TROVE works. Somebody asked, what do we think of the deal? Well, here's a quote from Linda Cook, the CEO of Harbour. She's certainly hit many of the key points in here. For us, what we'd say is, well, it's a great opportunity to go global for Harbour. We saw in the first video that they have a few countries dotted around the world, but this really gives them a footprint in many, many continents, in many different countries. So many of these countries, the Harbour Energy team, per se, well, they will have had little experience. Much of that experience actually will reside within Wintershall. And we can see that, head offices, operation centres, there's going to have to be some kind of a rationalisation in time. Now, Harbour Energy certainly have the experience of bringing together Chrysaor, Premier Oil and ConocoPhillips, and probably an ongoing rationalisation and integration of those organisations. And data is a huge challenge. Of course, Harbour Energy have TROVE databases, so they have the advantage of being able to use them to look at all the areas and all the assets within the regions. It will be a challenging integration, and certainly the deal brings scale, it brings a lot of growth potential, and it's sort of diversified the above ground risks, the political risks, and also it's helped to open up the chances for greater reward. In the statement there, I think it's a little confusing. Now, greenhouse gas emissions are going to be going up for the combined entity, and that is, it's going to be producing 500,000 barrels of oil equivalent. If you look at it from a harbour point of view, it's going to be significantly more production, significantly more emissions, but as much of the portfolio is actually gas, is actually going to lower the intensity for Harbour. I guess the reverse holds for Wintershall if you looked at it there, but it's a new company. Great that Harbour are going to get some CCS experience right off the bat, which is going to be very, very useful. And I think overall, what we would say is it's fantastic news. Congratulations to both the Harbour Energy team and the Wintershall team for bringing this deal together and getting it over the line. Have a great Christmas. Bye for now.